One of the best ways to not be fooled by things that other people say is to take action. This is why you can prove certain things to yourself, such as you already know from experience that if you don't use it, you lose it. The other day, I was speaking to a woman outside of a shop. I don't exactly remember what it was. I think it was a grocery store. And she said that she recognized me because of my power cords. If you've ever seen any of the videos, I'm wearing this gold and black braid. There are other iterations of it that have been blue, green, and yellow. There's another one that's red, white, and blue. And the current one I have is black and gold. Now, we were talking, and she was saying that she had seen something that I posted about the mobility, and I had explained to her this idea that basically this is what it means, because she was so backing up a little bit. She was saying that she didn't have as much mobility as she saw me displaying, and she says, can I really do that stuff? So I gave her a quick little demonstration. I went down to the ground and did a pistol squat, and then I did what's called a negativa and a hole or a roll. There's some capoeira moves, and crawled around on the ground, and just a really quick demo. But this is how you can prove things for yourself, by taking action. And taking action is actually one of the ways that you can physically control your mind. So a lot of times, and I am getting to this idea of use it or lose it. And this is all part of the same narrative here. Now, one of the ideas is to understand that you can physically control your mind just as much as your mind can physically control your body. It probably would have been better if I said something like, your mind can mentally control your body. And sometimes, in order to create better habits, for that to become your being, for that to become your habitual way of being, your personality, really, is you can meet in the middle. Some things you can meditate on and visualize and imagine and say mantras for, and other things you just have to do. And sometimes you do a little bit of both until you're doing a lot of both, until that's pretty much, they're all in alignment with each other. So this is something quite interesting I've been thinking about for many years. I've spoken about it, recorded it before. I don't know where it is, because I haven't spoken about it a whole lot. I do know, actually, now that I come to think about it, that there was something I spoke about, and I called it witchcraft, on one of the Noom Vibe recordings. So the basic idea is this, and this is a way to understand this. And it's also because I was attempting to show how magic, for example, has been stolen from everyone because of semantics and etymology and things like that. Like we have had our ability to direct our own fate and create the experiences that we want physically and mentally, because it's been pushed off into this realm that's called magic, that then people will ridicule and say, oh, that's that airy fairy oogie boogie new agey stuff, when really there actually is a practice, and being a practice, it's practical, and there are material and physical components to it, just like with magic. And also, the example I'm going to give is from old school witchcraft, but we're not doing any witchcraft per se, as if you're a religious person or spiritual and is scared of those kinds of things. Please be confident that we're not doing any kind of rituals like that. There's no pentagrams, there's no chanting, there's none of that stuff like that. It's simply an explanation so that you can come to understand and we can be on the same page, right? So now, know this, that I have to disclose this because I've been told before, especially sometimes I start to use these tools and a certain pattern and a certain way of speaking that is hypnotic. And so you should know that I am a master hypnotist. I have a degree in clinical hypnosis, hypnotherapy from the Hypnosis Motivation Institute, Tarzana, California. You can look them up, hypnosis.edu. Okay, so in this understanding, okay, what I'm doing is telling you a story and creating a narrative so that you can put this into perspective, because a lot of people know and can relate to mythology and folklore and stories, just like how we somewhat know the story of Santa Claus, although I really don't know much about Santa Claus, or like the Easter Bunny or whatever, right? Or the Tooth Fairy. Like, let's look at the Tooth Fairy. I think I'm more familiar with that narrative, for example, before I go into the whole witchcraft thing, but just so you know what I'm talking about here, right? It's all kind of nonsense and BS, right? So the Tooth Fairy, the child, parents tell their children, if you lose a tooth, you put it under your pillow and the Tooth Fairy will give you a quarter or whatever it was back in the day. Maybe it started off as a dime, nickels, dimes, quarters, and $1. I don't know how much they're giving kids for their teeth that fall out these days, right? But that's kind of, see how, that's a short little story, right? Child loses their teeth, Tooth Fairy comes, takes the tooth, gives them money, child wakes up happy, right? That's a little narrative. That's like some folklore, right? It's like, I don't know. Or there are other ones like that. Or Santa Claus, right? If you're naughty, you don't get presents. If you're nice, then Santa Claus comes down the chimney. He puts presents under the tree. You leave him milk and cookies, and you wake up in the morning, happy kids. Like, it's all the same kind of weird stuff, right? For some reason, Easter bunnies make eggs. All right, okay. So now, the witchcraft scenario, the idea to understand is, and this is having to do with use it or lose it, physical control of the mind or physical hypnosis of the mind. And so in the old ideas that many people have of witches, right? Like, if you think about the Wicked Witch of the West from The Wizard of Oz, if you're familiar with that. But basically, it's this typical witch, right? The archetypal witch that you would see in Halloween, right? That has the pointy black hat, right? And the long crooked nose, and they're wearing like this black garment, right? This black kind of dress or whatever, this coverall thing, right? With kind of like belled sleeves, and then it's a skirt, or actually a dress. Maybe it's one piece, I don't know, but it's the black hat with the wide brim and the pointy top, right? And that's a typical witch, and either the witch has a broom or a wand, or could have a broom and a wand. Usually I think they do, and they flew on the broom, right? So that's the whole idea. And then this same kind of witch, right? Usually they're old and haggish, right? And so and then these witches, sometimes they're part of covens, right? And these covens, usually they're like 7 witches, I think is a typical number. And in these covens, the thing that comes to my mind now, right, the thing that I'm seeing is there's a big giant cauldron, right, which is this big black giant pot full of like some kind of liquid, and it's bubbling. Maybe sometimes it's over a fire, and they say things like bubble, bubble, toil and trouble, or whatever, right? Or they look into it like how you would a crystal ball. I think it's called scrying or something like that. And then they can see visions of the future or in distant places or whatever. Just like now we have our portals of our, we can see live events and things like that now with our TV screens and whatnot. But the point is that these witches are dancing around this cauldron, and then sometimes when they want to do spells, now here's the part that's connecting to physical hypnosis of the mind, physical control of the mind, and also it goes the other way. But let's take a look at what's happening here. So a lot of these typical witch types of spells, they'll say things like, wing of a bat, tongue of a frog, eye of a newt, right? And they start putting it inside the cauldron, right? And so when you think about these things, right? So what is the point of a witch casting a spell? Sometimes it's for love, sometimes it's for money, sometimes it's for health, right? Happiness, health, wealth, the stuff we still talk about today, right? Or they want to curse somebody. But let's look at the blessing part of the achievement part. Let's focus on that, right? So happiness, health, and wealth. right? So now, but look at what is happening here, right? Let's break this down. They are taking physical components, right? Wing of a bat, tongue of a frog, eye of a newt, right? Or whatever else they're putting in there, physical things. And then there's this physical cauldron, and they're physically stirring it over a physical fire, this big giant black physical pot. And they're saying words with their physical faces, right? Making physical sound in the physical medium, so on and so forth, right? I could go on and on. My point is that witchcraft, those old stories of it have been convoluted, and what I am declaring they actually are, and this is not something that other people agree with me or anybody has ever said to me. No one talks about this except for me. But what those things in my mind, and what is, because of the way I'm sharing it to you, is useful for you to change your perspective on this instead of being scared of it, is that it's a story, it's a metaphor for the fact that physical action in the world, doing things, is how you become anything. And if you don't do something, then you become the result of the not doing. They'll use it or lose it, right? So this type of witchcraft that I just talked about, where they're using this physical stuff, is a metaphor for you taking action, for you actually doing things. When you do and take certain actions, you get certain results. If you want happiness, you have to do things that are going to make you happy, meaning you practice the instrument that you want, you sing the songs you want, or write the haiku that you want. You talk to the people that you want to. Sometimes you get rejected, but you just keep trying, you keep going, right? Or you figure out, you draw the art that you want, you do the job that you want, you take the trip that you want, you do the exercise you want, you do the push-ups, the squats, the jumping jacks, whatever, right? You do the things that make you happy as much as you possibly can, right? Health, I talked about jumping jacks, squats, and push-ups and crunches, right? And you eat healthy, you do healthy things, and you will be healthy, right? Because if you don't do those things, then you will lose your health, right? And wealth, you've got to do things that lead to wealth. You want to make $1 million, you sell 500 of something that you made that cost $2,000 to your clients, or you sell 50,000 things that are $20, all that stuff, right? This is all things that you have to do. Physical actions in this world create all kinds of other results. Physical actions, we feel happy, that's mental, spiritual, right? Physical actions make us healthy mentally and physically, right? And physical things that we do, making, producing, and sharing, selling, marketing these things, can have the potential to make us wealthy. That is the point of these stories, what those witches are actually doing. Why they're doing these physical things in one place and expecting it to create another result that is in the physical world. So why not cut out all the middle stuff of the cauldron and all that other stuff and just go directly to the thing that makes you happy? That's the point, is what has happened. And this whole story, what this is all about, is that we've been fooled to think that we need some intermediary in order to get this stuff done, right? That's what has happened. And the thing is that the truth is right in front of your face in that story, is that it's showing you right there that how ridiculous and convoluted is that here you are in the physical world already, and then you're taking this physical stuff and putting it into this physical pot and then expecting some physical results somewhere else. No, just do it. Now, the other thing that's telling us, right, because I've also experienced this myself, is what's really amazing is that when you start taking physical actions in this world where you are right now, in the space where you are right now, it's really amazing how the universe, if you will, seems to line up with your persistence, with your drive, with your insistence, as I rather should say, in getting something done and getting some results, because then all of a sudden it seems like other things are just lining up for you to seize those opportunities that you're looking for when you start taking action where you are. It's interesting because that's a fascinating part of this whole witchcraft story, right? Is that's another part of this that's really interesting, which is the real magic, is that when you actually start to do things, other things that may seem to be at a distance that remove from you seem to line up and start coming either into your view or coming your way to make it more accessible for you to seize hold of those opportunities. That is fascinating to me. That is amazing because I know that happens all the time. It is a fabulous experience. Now, and if you don't, a lot of the things I talk about in the physical body, and I'll bring this back to what I first started saying, that you can't be lied to or fooled by other people if you just start taking action, taking massive action. Doing it yourself, getting the results from experiment. When you start doing things, you see the results, and stuff that people are saying just won't be able to have any hold on you, because you'll see otherwise by doing it. You don't know how many times people have said to me, you can't do that, when I'm already well into doing it. I think that's been very strange. You can't do that. There's some examples I know that I have, but specifically a lot of things that have to do with when I first started working as a personal trainer and a group fitness instructor, where I started teaching boxing, kickboxing, yoga, mat Pilates, boot camp classes, kids karate, all this other stuff like that. And people, you can't do that without this, you can't do that, you have to da-da-da. Or, in the film and TV industry, well, you have to work this many for at least a year without getting paid before you, and none of that stuff applied to me. Because I was already doing things, and people were saying I couldn't do those things, but I'm thinking, what do you mean can't? I'm already doing it. Why are you telling me that I can't do something that I'm already doing or that I've finished doing? It's really interesting too, because it speaks to people's minds. Like, it's a cognitive dissonance, right? How someone can be in such a state of disbelief that you could actually have just done something right in front of them, and they can't they'll tell you you're lying, that you can't do it and you didn't do it, because that is not the experience they have. And this also ties back in to some of the things that I've been really putting out more lately, is the disappointing messages that a lot of people tend to spread, especially when it comes to physical health. And it's because it relates to this idea of the physical control of the mind, right? I was looking at some stuff, and I made a mistake. I said it was YouTube, but it was actually a guy on Facebook, this guy Alex Destresa, and all these people. He was showing this move called a flare that is used in breakdancing and other sports, and people were saying all this stuff like that. Oh, I'm this old. I'm 49. I'm 42. People of various ages talking about how they'd be so injured by doing that, and citing their age as the reason why. No, it's not your age. It's because you stopped using your body a long time ago, if you ever did, and therefore you lost it. You lost the ability to do any of those things because you just stopped using the ability. I mean, there are so many tips that come out of this, and I'm going to put some of them on the tail end of here, just because of some of the things that I've seen today while I was out shopping. Right, so I'm working, I'm shopping, picking stuff up, and one of the things I see very often, and so this is a tip right here that's going to be in the program, because these things come up all the time when I see it. I'm like, wow, this is something that I actually have in my program. But I'm going to plant these seeds and give it here. right? Because this is very important. Because what I've realized, it's compounding. It's all the little things that you can do throughout the day that have the effect on your body. And one of the things that I see people doing, so everybody has to go shopping for the most part. Most people do. A lot of people do, unless you have somebody shopping for you. Like, that's one of the things that I do. I go shopping for people, right? But if you're out shopping, right? One of the things that I see people doing that is really detrimental to your health is people stand behind the shopping cart and their body is hunched over and leaning over and pushing it. And now you could tell me all kinds of excuses about, well, I've been working all day. I for the last 2 days in a row, okay, I have been out shopping and I've been walking anywhere between 10 to 12 hours. Okay, getting in and out of my car, carrying things up and down flights of stairs. Right? So, and I know that by doing those things, what's really interesting is I get better and stronger to be able to do those things. And then there's other things that I do in between, like when I'm shopping, and how I squat all the way down to reach things on the shelves and lunge on the floor and add to it and do things very intentionally. I do a lot of things very intentionally. Even the way that I carry things to my car, I do very intentionally. Instead of having myself in awkward positions where there's stuff against my body and I'm struggling, no, I make sure I make everything as symmetric as possible. I get my breathing, my posture, and it might look strange to somebody outside, but I have full control over everything. Now, I don't want to get too far away from what I was saying, but because that's also other stuff that are very good tips. But this one main one I'm just going to tag on to here is the leaning on the carts type of thing. It's this whole leaning culture that people get into. It's this lazy posture that people get into. And it's so detrimental because all you're doing is training yourself to be leaning over and reliant on being propped up. You're just training for the cane. You're just training for a walker. You're training for a wheelchair. If you're not standing up on your own power and breathing in deeply and standing up tall, then you're going to lose the ability to do that because you're just training your body to not do that. Think about it. When you, and so again, and this is what I was talking to this lady when she saw me and she recognized me because of my power chords, the gold and black chords I was talking about. And this is where I'm bringing this full circle again here, right? So think about this. And I'm talking about these things from the perspective of a clinical hypnotist and a fitness trainer and a martial artist, which these things have to do with repetition. Repetition is something that's used in all three of those things that I've mentioned and in so many other things that we all do. And this is why it's so fundamental. This is getting to the root of it here, right? If you go to the gym, I should say when, I want to plant this seed to you, when you go to exercise of any kind, right? You could do it in a park, you could do it in your living room, right? If you're going to do a squat, a push-up, some jumping jacks, pull-ups, crunches, whatever it is you're going to do, walking, jogging, it's repetitive. One foot in front of the other, up, down, left, right, high, low, forward, back, whatever, right? It's repetitive. And let's just use the idea of a squat, right? You squat down, you stand up. You squat down, you stand up. Or you're sitting down into the squat, you're standing up, right? You're repeating this movement over and over again. And doing it correctly and consistently, you basically get stronger legs, right? I don't want to go into the whole lumbo-pelvic hip complex and all that. Let's just say you just get stronger legs from doing the squats, right? Now what happens when you repeatedly lean over all the time? Your body gets stronger in that weakened position, if I can use that juxtaposition. You see what I'm saying? When you lean over all the time and prop yourself up, you're not allowing yourself to strengthen the ability to stand up all the time. It's better to keep standing up and breathe. Yeah, every once in a while you take a rest, but what I'm saying is the majority of what I'm seeing is people are, instead of resting intermittently, they're only standing up tall and strong intermittently. And what you're going to get is the result of just flopping over and resting on things all the time instead of standing up on your own steam. That's where you start to lose your ability as you get older, not because you're getting older. There's a difference between chronological age, biological age, and physiological age. And all of these things play into each other. There's also psychological age, right? These things, and I'm not going to overcomplicate that, but these are all things that have come to my mind, but they interplay with each other. There's an interconnectedness here, and all of these things foster a deeper connection with each other when they work in conjunction. And so you have to be able to understand this one idea. Let me get back to it, of repetition, and back to this lady when I talked about use it or lose it. And this was the idea that I'll close this out on here, right? What I was talking to her about basically was that, and this is really a reiteration of everything I've said, but when you sit down on the couch, like the idea, I don't know if you've heard this term before, of couch potato, but if you sit on the couch all the time and you don't get up and move about, if you're sedentary, then your body basically is training and gets trained to be sedentary. And so what it does is it does away, it disconnects, it no longer prioritizes the abilities that you have throughout your nervous system, your musculature, your musculoskeletal system, your circulatory system, everything. It deprioritizes, it takes away, what it does. What is the way I termed it in the use of energy, but it redirects, it takes away the energy from being prioritized or directed into those facilities that are used for being active. And therefore you just turn into a tub of goo, because if you're going to be planted into the seat where gravity is pulling you to the seat, then guess what's going to happen? Your body's just going to become flabby and be better for gravity just to keep you down in the seat. You're going to be more able, if I can even use that term for what happens, because it's really a disability that's preventable, but you'll be more you're more the brain of me is really scrambling to find out the term that I would like to use here, but you're more well conditioned. That's it. Wow. Whew. Conditioned. You become more conditioned, right? For that condition. If the condition that you put yourself in is to sit around all the time, then that is the condition that your body is going to prioritize. It's not going to prioritize getting up and walking around and going upstairs and jumping or squatting or doing any of those things. And that's why you do exercise. If you don't use your body, you lose the ability to do that, because your body then deprioritizes, it redirects, it takes the energy away from doing those things. Your body is very intelligent. It starts to think, if I'm not going to be doing these things, why should I prioritize? Why should I put any energy towards doing those things? Why should I activate those facilities if I'm not going to be walking for an hour or climbing stairs, right? Why do I need to direct any resources to that? So your body is very good at being efficient with the resources. So if you're not doing that stuff, it just doesn't allocate resources or energy towards those functions. It's like, I'm not using these functions, then let's just lose the connections to that. That's what it is. Use it or lose it. If you don't do something, just like even when it comes to thinking and imagining, and that's why I call my concepts hypnoathletics, exercising your mind, right? Hypnoathletics is exercising your mind towards universal harmony and spiritual wisdom through healthy living and self-defense. So anyway, that's all I've got to say about that right now. I tied it in with this idea of witchcraft really being physical actions to get physical results in the world. So you might as well cut out all that middle nonsense with the cauldron and the animal parts and all that other stuff like that, and just do the actions. Do things, get the results of those things. Sometimes you may not always get the results that you want, but it's an experiment, and at least you've tried. People can't fool you and tell you that you can't do something, because you know by experience that you can do it. And by doing things, you retain and strengthen the ability to be able to do those things, right? Which is talking about use it or lose it. But if you use it, then you can become better at using it, and that's the whole thing. And the more you use things, and you become more confident with it. And that's another way to physically control, to physically hypnotize your mind, besides the other way around, right? Is And I already talked about the repetition of the things, and at least before in another recording, about the things that we consume, whether that be through food, right? You are what you eat. Whether that be the things that we listen to, right? You are what you hear. And the things that we watch, you are what you see. Basically, you become what you experience, those things that you absorb from the outside. So be a filtering machine about the things that you allow into your experience, whether that be things that you're experiencing through any kind of media, and also what you're putting your body through, what through the physical exercise that you're doing, and the nutrition or lack of, or malnutrition, because bad nutrition, right, that you put into your body. That is really what it's all about. We have to filter what we allow to become part of our being.
168.